A volatile day for stocks. What's behind it? Let's speak with George Ball, who's chairman of Sanders Morris, and I'm Lisa Bernhard with Reuters. George, as mentioned, stocks have been volatile today, down as we're speaking. I know that there's Mideast conflict is intensifying. We've got the jobs report tomorrow. What do you think is the investor sentiment today?
The volatility, the downside in the market, reflects a greater investor awareness of what I would call global conflict risks and the fragility of our economy and others to seemingly one-off isolated events, but things that in combination make you wonder, gee, is the economy, will earnings, are stocks really worth what they're selling for today? And that's spilled over into a more volatile, a more risk-off sentiment for at least the time being, Lisa.
So are you saying a combination of events, and am I correct to assume the port strike is included in that, makes really investors uncertain and therefore jittery?
As an investor, you might say, well, a port strike is simply a passing phenomenon. It's sort of a thing that happens in New York or Baltimore or Los Angeles. It doesn't matter very much, and it'll get settled fairly soon. The psychological impact's much greater. It shows you how fragile supply chains are. It shows you how the power balance between labor and capital may have shifted, even for some little while. And I think that people underestimate the psychological damage that something like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have the inventories at Christmas time that we need to have, or we can't build the cars we want to because we can't get some parts in here from the Philippines. And again, investment sentiment is a very fragile thing. I think the port strike and other things like it, including the global heating of military conflict, could be deleterious to the markets over some period ahead here.
So how does all of this affect your positioning then?
I think that the cautious investor, and cautious investors may be called cowardly, but they often live to fight another day, is going to have a greater allocation to the fixed income markets than they did before. And they're going to invest more and shift their equity holdings toward the value sector and really away from the more romantic AI tech magnificent seven that have driven the markets over much of the first 8 months of the year.
So let's throw in the election as something else that's uncertain that's coming up November 5th. How do you see that playing into all of this?
The election is clearly a flip of the coin. What many investors want, by the way, is going to be a split between the White House, the Senate, and the Congress, so that the legislative and executive branches basically have little power to do anything. Yeah, let's keep the status quo in terms of taxes, fiscal policy, and other things like that. And that may well happen. However, both ex-President Trump and Vice President Harris have plans afoot that would certainly aid small business disproportionately to big business. And again, small business tends to reside in the small cap and leveraged small cap stocks, which is why I think they've been doing better of late, but are still much cheaper on a statistical basis than the big cap stocks or the large tech stocks that have been so strong in the earlier part of the year. So small cap as opposed to big cap, more fundamental business as opposed to romance for the future, may be the right way to position equities for the time being, Lisa.